Safari's fine.
Safari?
Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
cool. Yeah, then we say welcome to the gallery surfing session
Lovely.
with Robert Leegte. Is it right?
Leegte. Excellent.
Leegte. And with Sarkowski, with me. And yeah, I'm happy you're here. You're from Amsterdam?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we are here in Berlin. So you
Excellent.
have
Nobody can tell, but that's the hard reality.
Short visit. And I thought I can use this chance to visit with you your actual exhibition, or is it already over? I don't know, at Colin and Fletcher?
The Carol Fletcher show finished, I think, end of September.
End of September.
It's been down for a month now. I think.
Okay. I thought it's longer. Okay.
Yeah, it was running through August and September.
Yeah.
So officially it's down, but of course all these shows get stored.
Yeah.
Because they're web-based and they get archived.
Maybe we go there.
Yeah, let's try.
Yeah, maybe you take over the keyboard.
Oops.
It's a German.
Yes. Yeah.
What do you think about this gallery and their idea doing this online shows?
It is a relatively new thing. So yeah, so here we are. I think they were experimenting with extending their space to the web to show a net.art practice, but also a hybrid practice. And they've had a lot of criticism that it's not a show, but it's people have difficulty in sort of
with the online part
reading it as a show, or less like an article or a blog post, or
the part of their website.
What
they call it,
what they call a show, an exhibition
on screen. They call it, or somehow.
But as you see here, it's like exhibitions.
Yes.
And that is something they're looking into. I think it's refreshing a commercial gallery is trying to do that. To extend that space and to experiment with the concept of an exhibition online.
Yeah.
And of course you get a lot of critics because you do get a lot of representation. Also in the show I did myself, you have like representation, documentation of physical work. And then of course it becomes very sort of, is this an article or is it a show?
It's always a problem with the artist portfolio on the web.
Yeah.
That you never know, is it a work? Is it
exactly.
What is it?
Because and here, it literally is not the work.
No.
This work is not here. This is documentation.
Yeah.
To be honest.
But it's clear.
But this is actual work. So it's it's an iframe. It's actually embedded into the page.
Okay.
So it's a hybrid. It is a hybrid story. This. So you do have.
Because sometimes they have also the link then here to the work. I remember the exhibition what Constant was curating on this on screen. Then there was always a short description and a link to the real work.
Yeah, which happens here. Yeah. To view the work optimally, you can go to...
Yes.
Because then you have
please go there.
Yeah, of course.
And then we see the difference.
Of course, you have the full experience.
Okay.
Yes. With the domain name, with the whole... I mean, there's a lot of materiality gets lost when you iframe it. So this is, of course, it's good. So it's interesting because that's always been great about iframes. It's basically sort of a window to
something else,
some online work, but it actually is embedding the actual HTML. So it is there, but it's being reframed, and it's always been an interesting.
It's also an appropriation,
in a way. Yeah. And so this is
It's really a different.
It is quite some different story altogether.
Yeah, it's like transition. I mean, there's always a topic with works. Yeah, if you have a catalog, if you have an on-screen work, if you have a print, if you have it in an archive, if you have it in a museum, and so it's already happened now. Yeah, I see. But you could also only show the link. I think you made also this piece. This is I don't know, the fragment where you have an URL on the wall. So you could also only show the link without iframe.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, so that's sort of a dialogue. I think, of course, the gallery would like to sort of make it more accessible. So, of course, I think like with Constance show, they were images of the works. They would have...
We can go back, maybe, then we check it.
I think so. In previous net-based...
Past exhibitions?
Yeah, I just have to scroll down, I think. I think they're all underneath each other.
Oh.
It's a long walk.
Well,
so you see a lot of iframe works.
And no, it's too fast, and we don't have to go back. It's like a Tumblr, yeah, that you scroll to the end.
I know.
Okay.
It is literally a WordPress. So it's blog posts. And if you go down, you have like
there's no tag or category.
Show.
Yeah.
And look, here they have actual images of the pieces.
Yeah.
They're referring to.
I see. It's drop shadow.
And then you can click on them and go there. And for my show, we decided, because it's so much about the materiality, it would be interesting to try the iframe to really bring in this stuff. Because it is because like you really have it there. That is an interesting aspect.
Like a window into something else. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, as you said.
Yeah.
Huh.
And so they're experimenting with these formats.
You could also pop it out then in this, or no? That would be too
same story. You just break out.
No, I mean, yeah. Right.
This one actually is better because it's the screen is so big it collapses in a way. It becomes a really small sculpture because the screen is so big.
Here, you mean?
Like here it's like a teeny little box in a big space. And
why he lost it? Why it lost the map?
It's actually Antarctic.
Okay.
So it's white.
I see.
So it's funny how of course with the iframe you have like the sort of it's in a way bringing back, it's breaking with the responsive nature of the browser. So you have like the resizability is just killed. It's like it's going back to painting, but you just say it's like this and this format, dimensions exact, and so that, of course, and that's not how the browser works. It just like on every screen it's different, and you on your telephone. So these iframes are, in a way, quite pragmatic, so you can really sort of define the image. But that wasn't because they all are the same size. You could make them all different, of course, according to the works behind them.
And you could also, according to the screen size that people come, so that you read it out and then you make the iframe that related to the.
Oh, you could do that as well. Yes.
So that,
but here it gives a high level of control, of course, because you just like this image.
Has it to do with your selecting pieces, or the whole topic of selecting in a part?
Not directly. That is interesting because
I see now I had now a relation as you described it, like a fixed.
Yeah, it is. It's like, as we said, a window to a website, and that is So in a way, it forms a selection, although it's not completely. It does actually load the whole page into the iframe, so it will fill itself up to this dimension you defined. It's an entity on itself. The iframe is quite
an object, you would call it. Yeah.
Yeah.
In an earlier time, you said you're doing objects.
Yeah, you have to sort of first. Okay, it's something. It's an object. So then you sort of. So what is it? Materiality. What's its properties? And as I said, it has like a window, but it's more than that. It is bringing the work really into that frame.
And you used somehow these nice. What is it, a form tag or what, that it gets these three-dimensional frame.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the standard beveling of the iframe.
It's the standard?
Yeah,
I thought it's without anything. That has this 3D
of course.
moment.
Yeah, that is an echo from the past. Because it is like that. It feels 90s interface design. And, because like nobody uses iframes anymore. I mean,
not in this way.
Definitely not. No, they are quite.
They are used for video embedding in most cases now, I think, and then you don't have these kind of 3D.
And everybody turns off the beveling, of course. They just sort of flatten it. So it's quite funny if you just insert it. This is what it does.
And this is a standard.
Yeah,
so,
okay. Which is it's like a forgotten element.
Yeah,
and because nobody cares, so it's like some echo from the 90s.
Yeah, but this leads then immediately to your works from the 90s.
Definitely.
Interfaces.
Oh, totally.
And so, and and it's also a topic in this exhibition. Or is this exhibition an overview? Or
yes. You could call it. It's a retrospective, like this. The table border is a similar story.
I remember, but there's a lot of. It's an unusual. It's a dynamic table border.
Yes, it's random. Yeah. No, this work is again. It's a default material. It's like this. If you throw out a table, and I think still today, its standard has a beveling, and of course everybody flattens it, turns it off, and everything. But again, it's like this old weird 90s standard.
I remember
HTML
there were
feature.
a lot of works thinking about these tables and playing with frames and the thickness of frames and so on. And, with all these UI elements as like elements, like objects, like material, like you speak about. That's not in the discourse anymore so strong in a way. The material now is always really real material, I have the impression. It's more about like sculptures again. Material from plastic to glass to something. So it's not about UI buttons, tables, frames or so. But you changed also in between your works between installation, then UI objects. I would call it so. I don't know UI objects.
That's pretty valid.
Yeah, and then back to real objects and
up and down. Yeah. No.
And now, but it seems so like against the hype. Now everyone, or I have an impression that now a lot of digital-based artists coming back to doing objects in the gallery, and I saw a lot of works now in last year coming from you on the net again.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
I'm sort of
different,
moving out of sync. Yeah. I am very aware of that. No, it's because that's true, definitely. And
interesting.
I find it interesting, and it's often that it was like because I was doing all these projectional works. So the older ones. So if we go back to these two, for instance. So this is like 2002, 2005. So this was prior to the sort of uprising of post-internet stuff. And that was a big gallery move. And I was very much inspired by that generation. But not so much inspired by this because I was already doing that. But I was very much inspired by the changed culture online. So it moved me back online. So I'd quite stopped making online work until I ran into this generation, and I became sort of super fascinated by the switch. So I started running back into online again, and then so it's I've been a bit out of phase all the time, but it's actually really very nice because you have a different viewpoint all the time. Such is life. Yeah, nothing.
but you got critics for this in this time. I think it was unusual.
Unusual, yes.
To switch from net-based into the gallery.
Yes, because it was hardly recognized. I think people had quite an issue. They just couldn't really process it. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Sort of. Weird. I think that was definitely the case. It was exhibited a lot. I did show the works a lot around and had a sort of secure fan base, but it was definitely not a Discord. That was like it was sort of out of the planet.
Yeah, because it was a little bit too early.
It was just out of phase. Yeah.
Okay,
that's funny. No, but I agree. It's very interesting to pop in and out, and I think also that the net-based practice is also something you just have to revisit all the time, because it is, of course, it's always in flux, but the culture is very much in flux, and there's then always so much to discover again. And especially what you learn from going offline, going back. So, oh yes, of course, have to apply it this way or that way. And there's not that much net art being made right now. I think it is, in a way,
in the classical sense. So dealing with
dedicated web-based art. Oh. Of course, that goes up and down. I think there's phases. There's like groups rediscovering it and applying it. Of course, you have people. You have some people like I don't know. Well, Rafa Rosendal, of course, just continues, but Jonas Lund has gone more into the gallery works. But he had a whole straight of him constant as well. He still makes work.
Sure.
So there's still a dedicated core, which is super nice. But it's not a big scene. It's still a.
It never was.
It never was. It apparently, I thought one day it'll become a big scene. It never did.
Not really, I think. But it is now in hype. I would say still everyone is talking about internet, and after this biennial here, I think the post-internet is also like in hype now.
That's history. In a way, yeah.
I read last week somehow in a description from the net.art anthology in Rhizome.
Yeah.
Early post-internet. They already differentiate and say, you are not really post-internet. You are not early. So you are
middle, late. So post.
So it's a hard business.
It's complicated. Well, it's fun for art historians.
I don't know if it's fun for art historians. I think it's.
I don't know.
I don't know for whom it's fun, but maybe it's not really fun. Maybe it's really showing how competitive it was always, this whole thing. And I thought the net art is somehow a relief, somehow gives you the freedom to be independent from all these.
That was the whole idea.
That was the idea.
Yes.
And I thought it was also from the idea from the post-internet in a way. That people said, hey, we do our own exhibitions again, local, in the space, and so, but we come from the internet. So,
definitely.
And we have topics from the internet.
You took the surfing clubs and that culture, it was very outsider. Yeah.
And it was also somehow liberating or so. I had the feeling in the beginning, but then it becomes very fast, I think, a hype.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, but I could imagine that now if there are more teachers or more people like in my generation also becoming teacher, that there comes maybe a new generation practicing again and thinking again about the medium, and maybe there will be more net artists in the next 10 years because they become educated by the old ones.
That's true. So I teach a lot of them. And but it all still, I think something there's a few issues. I mean, you have like Constantine that sort of, in a way, very accurately said it. It's like he sort of declared the web being dead, of course. Yeah, and that is, of course, a whole genre of art is based on that idea of this blank canvas server space with this unique URL. So it has this. That already feels like an old beast in a way, because, of course, then you get like Amalia Ullman working within these sort of platforms, and that's actually where the net is right now.
Yeah.
So if you actually make this canvas work online, it sort of It doesn't feel as alive as it used to do or something, because that was the net, but now it's like it's stuff that's referred to.
Yeah, but I think this is also a very narrow perspective, because you had also in all times more activists projects, and you had more projects like early affirmational art, like Itoy or so. The early this, that they had this corporate aesthetic, and they were playing with over affirmation. They had all these topics already, but they haven't thought about this like a canvas. I think they would go more in the direction like you describe it, like you have windows through the canvas, you have more tubes. Yeah, it's more like an interwoven structure of tubes or so, and not flat canvases.
No, definitely. But that's what I probably mean, is that because of the sort of the hijack of the net by the big corporations and the social media, and the net has become social media, it has forced sort of the domain-based space to be more like a canvas. I think it used to be far more flat. You had, of course, it had a living quality, and now it feels more like, it's in a way, what's the word? What's the exact word? The flatness. No, that's exactly what the problem is. So if you have like this flat web, every node is equal, so it has the same living quality. And you would have these web rings and all kinds of linked lists and sort of chopped up together, and you would add something to the system, and it would be this vibrant sort of reconnecting part of the network. And that was how the net was. And now very much feels in a way disconnected, or like an endpoint, sort of, okay, I'm adding this work which is going to be referred to in these systems, in these social networks. It's like food for the system.
So you see it.
Well, that is somehow the effect the system has on that practice. It's different than it used to be. That's what I mean.
I think, I don't know. Yeah,
there is space. There is space.
I think there's still space, and there was always, and you could work in the system, like Amalia or a lot of young people do it, or also old like Jody with YouTube also. They did also works in there. You could try to break this or play with it or go over, but there's also next to it, I think on the same level you have still these the own domain networks, or people they work on their own domain, or buy a lot of domains for their single work. It's still functioning. I think I wouldn't. I'm not a huge fan of before and after or so.
No, but it's different. It's different, cultural viewpoint. It's experienced differently. I think. I don't know, but it's so that. And that's something to take into account.
For sure, to take in account, and also the audience is much bigger than ever. So it was a small circle in the beginning, and now it's proliferate. It's everywhere. So the quantity is much higher. But for me, interesting was what, as you said, in the flatness. I remember that the old monitors, they were also a little bit curved. They were not really flat like this monitor we looking at now. So it has also the hardware changed so much. And now the mobile things, I couldn't see really good works. I hoped in 2010, I think, I was thinking, wow, so the app will be the new website. So everyone will have, instead of websites,
what is it, 75%? Internet.
But I can't see really net art on this, or you can name a good piece. so immediately. You say,
No.
so wow, this was great and so. And this is interesting for me, and this has for me again to do with the measurement. The devices become smaller and smaller and flatter and thinner and thinner. And it seems that also the content and the appearance and the materiality, maybe you could call it, as you said, it's thinner. It's really not there anymore. So, and in this sense, also the impact, it's a little bit lost. And so I see your work as we had before and after. So the iframe, the small one, and then the big one has a totally different impact. And I think in the older times, that was also one from the problems to jump in the gallery space with a 14-inch monitor. No one was really impressed. No, everyone was saying, "What's this
teeny little screen?"
And then this tiny little things on it. And then you have to. That was really strange. And in this sense, it comes back with a mobile phone. You have this tiny screen, and then some much more tinier pieces on it. It's not working out really for me as an art piece. And I was surprised because I had the hope that it will be a next wave coming, of independence and so. But how you deal with this? Is this a topic for you? These interfaces or the elements you deal again with? There are no scroll bars anymore.
No, hardly. Well, you'll find them in Safari. You will. They're there. They're like these. They look a bit like these. They're sort of. They're still present. No, but I agree. It is, of course, a very difficult. There's a smallness to it, definitely. But of course, that's, as I said, it's like 75% of the internet traffic is through mobile devices. So people that is the new Handshake area. So this is again a bit old-fashioned, sort of only. A lot of net art still is developed for sort of on a desktop environment. And you don't see it that much so dedicated. But there are, of course, some art apps. But the problem with the apps is that they're, they take a little more production. So
maybe, but
it's doable. You could outsource it and whatever. I mean, there's no problem with that. But
it has also not be really a native app. You could also do an HTML5 version.
Sure, no problem. So
But I can't see really that it works out. But interesting, maybe I'm too old or so, but interesting is what you said now. That I remember on the moment where people made a distinction between browser-based and net-based. You remember that?
Yeah, definitely.
That was browser art also, and it had this bad taste, like the browser art. No, the net is the real thing.
That's the real thing.
And they all, again, I think it was political things or competition and to make borders and put people in and out and so. But I think now I have the impression that it's a little bit, maybe it could become the same, like, this is art for desktops. And then, so my grandfather, I look at this, so the old people. But I don't know. I don't know really if these slick things are capable of viewing or transporting or presenting art. They are somehow in a way so arty by themselves. It's really hard
that is an interesting problem.
To compete. It's like we had before with the portfolio thing, that you have no difference anymore between your portfolio on the social web and your work on the social web. So
it's hybrid area.
It's hard to say. And then in special, if everyone from the young artists is saying, branding, they try to brand themselves, and that is their work. So then it's become...
And then everything fits, because then the whole social story around it,
So coming back to the old things,
Well, it's actually a topic
Yeah.
because the fact that I made this work, like this one, this was the first gallery translation of these studies I'd been doing before, and the whole reason back then was that I was quite disappointed in the reception of the online work. So people back then, so this is like just around the .com crash, just before, it's 2000, late 90s, and people were, I intended them to be sort of very, to be observed as traditional artworks. I mean, they're pieces you have to sit in front of, and especially let's check it out like this. So it's a piece you sit, and you could just look at. You
but
can
you can't scroll around, or
no, and exactly. So people would be like, sort of, hey, what's going on? And they'd be annoyed, and sort of, there's no content, and they go and they close the window, bam. And I would get a lot of response that, of course, because the net wasn't that mature yet in its sort of perception. So people were like, yeah, where's the content? Bum, 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 and leave it. And that was one of the biggest reasons I translated to gallery space, to get this different attention span. And people would stand in front of it and would treat it as sculpture, or they would, the effect that, because I saw this as sculpture installation, but people would not take the time to feel that. And then as soon as I did it in space, people would sit there and freak out, sort of, what's going on? What kind of material is this I'm dealing with? And that somehow is the same issue here. It's like this sort of, this attention issue. It's like it's just scrolling through feeds. It's like the same problem like I had back then. Sort of how do you sort of, so that environment is probably not the place to express certain thoughts or works, and that's why app-based art is more interesting. So if artists actually develop a complete app for the artwork, you do gain the focus. It's like what is it, the XYZ of Jody, or there's of Linder, of Nico Princeton or something. That makes sense. So you have the focus, but if you're, mostly we're just back in good old news feeds. And that is exactly the issue I had back then. That doesn't have the right concentration to make work for. It makes sense. I mean, and maybe people are a little stuck in that. But I think there's a lot of potential for dedicated apps as artworks. I think, it's a very open field still.
I think the works, for example, you mentioned before from Raphael Rosendahl would function because they were single server pages in a way.
Yeah.
So they could perfectly function as a single app.
Sure.
I think he did also this
the game.
That was really fun.
Yeah.
But it was more for me a joke. It was dealing. Yeah, you could say it was art, but it was not like these aesthetic forms he chose, or where he's dealing with in his net-based art, and that was more. It was more funny.
Yeah.
But for me, I would like to come back to the skull bars. I saw also, or I remember that you had this work, because you always talk about sculpture, but then you had also this Mondrian-like piece, but it's not in the...
no, it's not in this list, no.
Yeah, but we could put it on. Because I think this is, for me, interesting, as we talked about before, as a canvas. As you said, it's a canvas. So I see both in your pieces always the flatness and the canvas idea of a picture. And then I see, there it is. This is like, then it's also your history as a Netherlands-based artist, maybe? Yeah, you see that? Or what you would say?
That's interesting. I've never seen it on the screen. Like, it doesn't work. That's great. Thank you for the debug. It's just too much.
What do you want?
I'm just trying to sort of to get this one out and just resize it a little. Hey, that's funny. That's weird. I've never seen it dysfunction like this before. Sometimes you have to revisit websites.
Sure.
So basically,
always have to
revisit them.
But this makes them also a living or
that's fine.
Yeah.
And they may collapse. It's fine. They just wear out. So that's okay. Of course, again, I introduced shadow. So I always approach it as a space instead of a canvas. So it's my background. I also did architecture first and the sculpture, and it's the way I've always read the software domain as a space, and so that's my background. So then, of course, I come with this sort of I created sort of space out of this super classic flat piece. So that is something you will see me do a lot. Let me see. I'm getting lost here. Because another good example is, of course, this one, which is, again, is flatness. But then, of course, again, working with this Photoshop, which is an incredible continuations of photography with painting. And sort of that's a flat bit of software. It's all about flatness. But then, of course, I'm very interested in the interfacing of the software tools, which for me are very physical. So, I mean, the whole fact that you're dragging this thing with your hand, and then so there's like this superposition of this. It's like this physical act on the 2D thing. It's actually the act of painting is like a physical thing.
Yeah,
and
it was physical. So and
that aspect,
it was not calculated in the sense that you calculated it before and then you made it. Long time it was painted only the shadow, or you painted something. So
you always have, of course, the act itself. And the object painting, which is and in the act there's a lot of sculptural things going on. So this I think this selection marquee is like again it's a weird object, and I'm highlighting it by giving it a shadow.
So in a way, it's also the interaction what you're pointing here
definitely,
out.
Definitely, yes. I think interaction is this key element of software that is processing, that is interactive, which creates this whole other beast.
But it seems now that it interacts. It seems that the network interacts only with itself. There is no human needed anymore.
No.
So it's maybe that was also a nice idea that we can interact with it, but in the end, it's not necessary. And I think you did also these works where there is an automatic selection.
Oh, definitely, yes.
So in this sense, for me, it was already you grabbed the topic. It's not long. It's not so long, or
it's like this one.
This one, or where you had it also on Google Maps. I think there was.
Yeah. It just selects a part of your street, or it selects a part of.
And it was automatically.
Yes, definitely. And I think that is...
and there's no interaction anymore.
No.
This is what I meant.
Yeah.
So in this sense, it was this kind of interaction. It was also a paradigm of the early net art.
Yeah.
Where everything was participative and interactive. And now it seems so that... And this was for me a little bit, typical, I thought. Because it's somehow... Before the whole AI thing was topic, is doing by itself something, so the AI is calculating and dreaming and everything. So here the art is happening by itself. So it's somehow random, generative art.
Definitely,
definitely. But with a web-based aesthetic, I would say, not with this classical, I don't know, processing aesthetic.
Oh yes, I know what you mean. Yeah.
So it has more of these web aesthetic, these kind of combinations.
Yes.
And this was for me interesting. And this, for me, it's like for Wegnahme, I don't know, the pre-idea of this, the network is talking with itself. It's like so self-feeding.
Definitely, self-contained.
And this was, I liked somehow. I had a little bit, in the beginning, I had a little bit problems, because I thought it's too simple. But then I I liked it more. And then I saw you worked on it like on a series.
Mm-hmm.
You worked over a long time, over 3 years now, or 4 years. You have now also debound prints with drop shadow, rectangles, and everything. So now you come back to this.
Oh yeah, no, I keep looking into this stuff. Yeah.
And how you see this kind of how is it that you develop this? Is it one series? Is it a Werksatz, you would say in German? Is it a Werkseries? Is it part of your? You have these scroll bars. You have these things.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple of these lines, and that brings you also back to this show, because here we sort of try to look into a few. So the scroll bar, we have the selection series. So that's then a series, the table border, and
the table border I see in context with the UI. With for me, this is the same version like the scroll bars. It's for me, it's different from the selection.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow, I don't know. But
and I agree. No, the selection, but I found the selection very interesting because it was so. As I try to explain, it was because it basically is another computer material, but then it's because the other ones are like classic UI, but this is of course also a UI material. It's just sort of functioning and trying to interface you with the function it has. But
maybe it's also temporary UI because it's not always there. It's really depending on your interaction or
exactly.
It's a what is it? A dynamic UI?
Yeah.
Like now the scroll bars are. They are not always there.
Exactly. Yeah, they have changed in time. Yes. Yeah. They also fade away. So this and I found it very interesting because it basically is. That's why I found the computer always, for me, very inspirational, because it just sort of makes you look at things differently. So here it's what is happening. So basically you're selecting something, which I see as a very cognitive process. It's like
you have to decide.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. So it's something which is a very cognitive classical process, which suddenly is being physicalized by the computer. That's a typical property of software where you sort of extrapolate these cognitive processes into some tangible form. In this case, a selection. So I'm going to select this part of the image. This is the part I'm interested in. I'm sort of.
Or would I crop out?
And then take it out, and of course you start working with it because it's a tool, so you can start editing and everything. But
or you invert it.
Yeah,
you could also do this.
Yeah,
you could invert it and then leave the rest.
Yes, definitely. And that's then I find again very interesting. So it's materializing this cognitive process. So if you start putting it in space or automating it by a computer, it sort of fucks up your brain. It's sort of especially of course like with so if you put it in a space, it sort of is forcing you to look at something, but you already feel like the implications sort of copy paste sort of stuff going on in your brain, sort of what's this, and of course here with the random selection piece, I give the computer that power, so it again is a very confusing thing because you're really dealing with very specifically framed images. I mean they're like from Flickr, so they're very specifically cropped. By photographers, and then there's this silly algorithm which is just subselecting a part which might not have been the part you were looking at, so you're in conflict with the algorithm.
Like you,
like yes, I was looking at this, but it's like, and that I find interesting. So it's then this cognitive battle nearly of the computer in your selective process. Just by this silly, it's a metaphor basically, or I don't even know what it is, but it's a designed functional interface material, so you can deal with that. But it has so much implications, I think, and that is something I just keep finding inspiring, coming back from these software tools and computer environments. So that's why I I'll start working on something else, and a couple of years later, I sort of hey, that would be interesting. Then I sort of reuse it again. So they're long threads sort of favorite materials I keep working with.
And for me, the end of this line now, which leads back to the gallery with a mountain view.
Yes.
With on Deepbound with drop shadow.
Yes.
These are very.
These.
Yeah. They have a little bit cheesiness, but also they are very. I would immediately put them here for sure. And this is what makes them so cheesy. You know? They say, "Wow, that works so very well." You know.
I know.
So this.
They are like.
Wow.
Because I know, and I find that very funny because they are basic. They're like IKEA posters in a way. Sort of. They're sort of. But that's the whole thing. They.
I don't know if the audience can see it, because I think I over. I think so. We have to put it in the middle. So.
Oh yeah.
So.
We can always,
So.
Yeah. And so what I did, because they came forth, if people missed out on that piece. So it's originally this web project, which is the Mountains and Drop Shadows website, which is this endlessly.
Now we can go back.
Yeah.
This is good.
Oh, yeah. Refresh it again. So basically, it just endlessly pulls in these images from the web and puts in this drop shadow.
It's like a continuation of the first idea, developed further with another UI element.
And this one is slightly more. This is nearly a statement type of work, because I'm really sort of you have then you're going into sort of what are these kind of images about, sort of the mountainous, and I always like to take the mountainous sort of this. It's just like this romantic expression of sculpturality. It's like the ultimate physical manifestation or something. So it's sort of like it has this raw power of the sublime. And it's like the ultimate sculpture. And and then
I never saw it because I was asking myself. Kim Asendorf is doing this pixel sorting mountain tour. You know?
Yeah.
And a lot of people have these mountains. Always. And
where did they come from?
Why always mountains? Maybe you're right. They are so sublime.
And from a very even stupid rib, there's the source of stone, which we make sculptures from. So that they have this very archetypical element, but they're also alike with a lot of modernist sublime principles. They have been overused. So and especially by platforms like Flickr and the internet.
Yeah.
So you have suddenly this element has become this overexposed material, and it's lost its key point, and that was sort of the thing I was looking into. So I just sort of I'll just throw these like beautifully shot out images of mountains, and then put on this
same selection. Huh? On the same place.
Yeah, there's always one in the middle, and this drop shadow is nothing but it's an empty drop shadow. So it's basically just it is a completely minimalized idea of digital materiality, and then it's sort of, for me, it's like this becomes more material, more sculptural than this to me. So that you get this weird flip side, whereas of course nothing, it's just absence of light. And so that was like sort of what I was playing with. And then I, of course, was sort of contemplating, so what would they be like if you actually printed? And then of course I thought, okay, but then which makes total sense. So then I went into wallpaper websites, and I was just sort of, so instead of using Flickr, I was just going for the free wallpaper websites, and then searching high bloody, and just sort of scraping out all the mountain images, which are even worse. Like from Flickr, they've now been reduced to sort of desktop images, so that's like even a lesser status. And then a Flickr is like, oh, it's my work, but this is like.
No, but these desktop people have also their forums and their...
Oh, sure. It's an exhibition space. It is a very valid space, but it does have like a wallpaper is like, so from mountain you went to or maybe an amateur photograph, you've gone to a wallpaper. It's like the wallpapers we had in our spaces. And so if you blow them up, they have like their little bit of JPEG grain, and then I put in this like vector perfect drop shadow on top, and it is actually an interesting cheesiness to it, but and it just it's a factory. It just churns them out.
Yeah, they are the same rectangle.
No. It depends on the image.
But the position is the same.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And you did also, coming back to the app, you did also this kind of screensaver-based mountain, where you have these both mountains on. This there.
Yeah, it's a lot of mountains.
Was this? This was. I think I saw it somewhere in a video where you had this on a pad.
Yeah, did you in New York maybe?
No, on a video. I don't know. I saw it on a video where it was on a pad, on an iPad or some
it was
photo frame.
I had it on a photo frame. Yeah, originally it was on a photo frame.
Was it made for it? Or?
No, I actually that was a version, because originally I had an online piece, which was a very long extruded one.
Mm-hmm.
Just sort of, it was a panorama,
mm-hmm.
and then I made this version for the photo viewer,
mm-hmm.
because it used these transitions, and I wanted just to crossfade it and keep the line right in the middle, and then I also made the web piece. And the photo viewers become obsolete by now.
Before?
Yes.
And then the web page after? Okay.
Yeah, the photo viewer was
interesting.
Was for an exhibition, and then I put the piece online as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the photo viewer became instinct. I mean, I couldn't even order them anymore. Like they're there, but nobody has them. They don't buy them in the shops anymore.
No. The iPad took over.
Yeah, exactly. So
but still, it would function on an iPad.
Oh yeah, definitely. But it was less like with a little standard. It's like sort of, these are like a postcard from the internet, and they were like running there. And the iPad has, of course, it's like albums you like sweep through.
No, but I think you can also use it as a photo frame.
Probably. You have a little foot probably behind it and everything. Yeah. But it's not as dedicated. As you said, it's too glossy. Mm-hmm. The photo viewer is a dedicated machine, and that's what it does.
Yeah. And you put your USB stick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're insane. I mean, they're just they're very annoying, because you're like, it's that stupid thing in their space constantly animating. That's probably a reason they didn't succeed.
No, I think the monofunctional thing is it's not competitive. Often
because they must be dirt cheap, of course. I mean they're super simple, but somehow they didn't. They must have been great gifts in the beginning, but sort of people just put them on.
I think really the pads took over. If you really like the effect, then you could use your pad for this, and maybe also the behavior changed. Then someone is showing you this kind of photo slideshow, then mobile, and say, "Here, look," So there's not really a frame anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know, but I liked also this idea of a frame of a constant. For a piece also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice. I like that dedication of the object. And
but I could also imagine I have it on an iPad. For me, it's not a problem.
Okay,
so
I can imagine.
I can imagine that it would be an app then. Yeah. It would function on a pad, but not on a small phone, but on a pad, which if I don't use it, that could stand then there and send postcards from the internet.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Yeah.
But you still don't see people using them. You don't walk into a house and see like used as a photo viewer. It's just something that never really hit through.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they were so nice, because they were so dedicated. So had you take out and then you start using it, that would always be just sort of looping through its USB stick.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how it goes. But that's. So
the sujet was still the mountains the whole time. So, but the Google Map you have also as a sujet. It is somehow related to landscape, I would say.
Definitely.
Or how you see it.
Yeah.
You see, why is Google Maps so for you? With mountains, I understand. So now,
Google Maps. So how I use that? So it's like in 3 works. This one. Of course, the sculpture thing was. That's what's quite funny. Here, this would nearly be my only real painting in a way. But still, it is sculptural. It still has like its little thingies and its depth, of course. But of course, it's completely referential. But there's always a sculpture layer to it. But this, I just had to make this monochrome piece nearly as a ready-made. It's just sort of taking a bit of the Pacific Ocean and showing that to us, and it's always random, so it just takes a part of the Pacific, so you have like a unique monochrome painting. And of course,
which zoom level is this?
6, I think.
It's not the closest.
No, it's just it delivers like the perfect grain. So if you go too far in, it loses its resolution. If you go too far out, it becomes an ocean. You see islands and continents popping in. So it just is a certain area. Yeah,
it has now really something like a wall paint.
It definitely has a texture and the right depth and everything.
And it's completely different. I think. What is this? Wirkung? The flat screen makes it here really special. Also, if you see it on a laptop, it's also different.
Yeah,
because here it takes our full view, and we are diving into more or less. Yeah, it's interesting.
It's quite funny. It's been showed a couple of times, and then
like
in a gallery show. No, never beam it because that really kills the blue. So it always has to be a screen. But often, for most time, we put the screens up. It's quite funny. So then it's like a vertical screen.
Why?
Yeah, it doesn't make that much sense. But then suddenly you have like this different orientation. The first time the piece was shown in a group show about monochromes. Actually, twice it's really been a monochrome show. And it's so funny. So it's like sort of, hey, let's put the screen up like that, and then you get like a vertical oriented web page. And it's quite funny. So of course you get the painting reference then really through. But it's also like it does something freaky, sort of, hey, I have like a vertical website.
Yeah, it's not really possible to do a vertical.
No, you have to sort of you have to help them. Yeah, you have to help it. You have to sort of rotate the image. But it's quite funny. But it's always nice to have it. Of course, we have a phone that would work that way. You could, of course, then flip it around.
Yeah, but not on.
No.
Yeah. And still, also, if you flip it, then it still stays so. In a way, we couldn't turn it really. We can't turn a website. Constant did it with an JavaScript.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is not the typical behavior.
No, it doesn't. No. It's not rotated. No. It's just reorganized. Yeah. Exactly.
And this is then the Google that is like the Google map here becomes the nature again. It's more like painting, but you referred also to sculpture-esque because maybe because of the texture.
That's a good point. You were saying why Google Maps. The reason was also that sort of after the interface elements and then having like the selection marquee.
Is it one question? Is it like this ordered in your exhibition? Where are the exhibition? No, we missed it here.
I think it's on another page behind it or something.
We could put it here in maybe the Carol Fletcher. They ordered this. They ordered this not over subjects. They ordered this chronological or no.
No, it's basically on subjects.
It's on subjects. Scroll bars.
This is chronological. This is not. This is actually later work. I think it's 13, 12, 6.
selection. Now
so
yeah.
no, it's basically sort of no. They have different organizations.
Okay.
So sort of
because then I would like to see where is the Google map, where came this in.
Yeah, then we have to really check it here. So that this is chronological.
Okay.
And so here's the blue monochrome 2008.
And it came why?
Yeah, because I already had made the selection piece before, and I hadn't. So as you said, it was sort of I was popping back into. So I just met the guys from the surfing club scene. So it was 2008. So they introduced me to that scene, and then I suddenly started making web-based stuff again. So I was going back in sort of whoa, this is refreshing,
nice,
and you'll see like there's like I just kept doing it, and so series, and the reason that I suddenly became interested in it could have been multiple. It's like maybe inspired by GeoGoo, maybe that came out around that time.
Yeah.
But it was also making this step. So I was very interested in, after being with the selection and sort of thinking about this notion, which I just really started applying in the web later, but I was this cognitive materiality sort of. So what is then a net material? That was like basically sort of the question. And Google Maps I found, and as I code everything myself, I was very aware of sort of the condition of your material. So and suddenly working with an API, because that is basically what Google Maps is, that became like a package. So that was again a new sort of stuff. It was just this sort of this object you place into your code and you just manipulate it. And so I began seeing as Google Maps as a sort of composite material, which was like it's basically an image added to a geo layer and added to an interactive layer. But that whole package as an API is sort of is a material you can use, and
like a color palette. So you have
it's like this pre-selection of, or it could be like any like physical materials like debond, which is like a sandwich material, or any other sort of complex material, or like you see a lot of ready-made stuff. Just I'll add a table as object and add like some red line to it, and so this API sort of idea. That was the first time I started, I think, working with APIs and sort of trying to think about what the hell is this? What is this? What is the status of it as an active, as a maker, sort of what am I working with here?
Yeah.
And then, of course, the sculpture came out, so I sort of was very curious to see, because then, of course, working with it and seeing the quality of the, it's so small. You have such a great screen. The texture, which is, of course, just basically satellite images, which was very funny, then suddenly became like, and that's when you get sort of the useful, isn't it? You get the same thing as we had with like the mountain discussion. So it's of course the locations become a natural texture and it has like a relationship with because of the naturality of it with like a marble object or a sort of it has the texture becomes the object or the material, plus of course all the API stuff and branding and everything going on. So this whole package was like, and then of course the fact that it's still active.
But not the whole. It's only the canvas, the surface is active. You can't move the whole square. Huh?
No. It's just the faces are no. So it's basically just Google Maps as faces of this cube. So it's and then there's sort of really sort of what material is this? That's basically the question. So it's like they're all like studies into this question.
Is this also could we think also about this, like could this be understood as a study also for maybe an object work would you really transfer then in a gallery space again, or could this make sense? Like I could imagine this could also function with a mapping tool or so.
No, I'm currently actually working on studying those options.
Oh, okay.
So I'm doing some tests and seeing. I was really curious to see that in space because often usually the net or the web really functions as it's my original inspiration somehow. So it's sort of that sphere of materiality, kickstart stuff, and then they like the early projection works really changes the way you think about it. And also our audience thinks about it, and that influences you back to the net, and then sort of you get this chain reaction. And the same with that, sort of, okay, would it survive in the space? Would it just become a bunch of satellite images, or what would this Google screen be? Should it be lightened? And there's things if you tried it out, it'll probably send you back online. Should it be massive screens or not?
But in this sense, you are an abstract worker. It's only a formal artist in the sense it's not about the narration so much. It's more about the material and the aesthetic and the dynamic and the relational things between flat shapes and space and their relation to each other, colors and so on.
It's definitely not very narrative. No,
yeah, it's not.
There's some little elements of narration coming in, but that's pure my relation to this material.
Yeah.
Like if you take a piece like this, which is just the story about me and the material, which is my narrative. Basically, sort of how do you relate to this changing materiality of the stuff? But it's still very much about the same thing as you said. We were just talking this last week. I had a talk, and we were also discussing sort of. Somebody asked me sort of how do you deal with this fragmentation, this sort of fragmentation of expressions of this material. They're like scroll bar here, and then it's changing, and then it's projected, and then it's been that in time. You make another version. They sort of so where are you in there? And for me that was like that is exactly what I find. I think that sort of represents the state of mind I have in contemporary culture. That this sort of simple question about materiality is already so complex and fragmented that it's more like this network of ideas which sort of formulates it. And we were like talking about this sort of idea of the relative truth of the issue about sort of it's very difficult to sort of formulate a truth in the post-internet condition or something. You're like everything is like parallel and fragmented.
In the modern condition.
In the postmodern condition, or even
not
maybe
only postmodern,
even in the modern,
since the Enlightenment, it's really complicated.
It's complicated stuff.
After we have no God anymore, there are so many truths.
Yes.
So I think it's an old problem.
Definitely.
And I think it's also often modern art is named, or it's often a good point to say it's fragmented, because if you try to be if you try to position a truth, it could become propaganda, or it could become totalitarianism in a way that you say you know it and so it is. No, but it's not true. I totally understand fragmented it works, or I like it as a moment. Also, I think it's necessary to have it as a modern artist. Yeah. So this approach to be total, I don't know if this works out in time. I think we should come to an end.
Yes,
otherwise we will continue forever because it's really interesting. But I thought coming back to the beginning of social web and the old net art, I saw this now in the overview. I had it in my view. Their study for Black Square. It's a test. It's a work.
It's a study
dealing with how what can I do in the social media, and how can I present myself there. Can I see it in this way? So that you tried a different material and you tried out.
It's probably literally sort of this this issue of fragmentation of focus. It's like that whole. Yeah, it's a good one. You bring this as last, because that whole question that was asked, sort of how do you position yourself with this material? That my answer is basically I have no idea. It's like it just constantly shapeshifts around me, and I think that is the whole issue. What's going on? That's probably what I'm trying to sort of map out, and this in a way is like illustrating that idea again. It's like taking this black square piece, and then it's like distributed in all your personas and mirrors online, and
you have them still.
No. It's a study. I should remake it. This was just I did sort of a rough study back then, and so I made like a Photoshop study of it in the end.
Okay,
just as a sort of
you don't try to keep them all.
No, because they went in no time. But it would be trying to restage it. That would be a good idea. I think it would be nice. I was actually thinking of that again, sort of spatial condition, maybe to put up a bunch of screens and load in web pages and see if I could recreate it.
Yeah. Because this relates to the work I do now, though, where I put myself in different social media platforms and see what has happened. So, so self-reflecting. But this
and
is
then see
somehow,
how it sort of corrupts.
Or somehow I think the net is like so interwoven with everything that I thought if you move a little bit one knot or so, then there is maybe a chain reaction or so. If like that could be start to vibrate, or like you drop in a lake, then it starts to get these waves. And I had the idea like doing this what you did with the selection, like it's talking with itself to an imagined audience. So that is the algorithm is working this audience or not, but it's still there. And so it's the same with me, but I'm the algorithm, so I talk only with myself in this strange network. Although this is the end, you see.
That's how it goes. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, I think it's
the outside world is coming in.
Yeah, I think it's a good finish. And I liked this. I think we had we covered a lot.
We did.
I think
we did. Thank you so much for inviting me. Yeah.
Perfect. So.